David with No Chaser. Now, before I get into this video, I actually want to talk about an exciting new project I am embarking upon, or have embarked upon. Now, I know a good part of my audience here and the people that watch these videos regularly had heard me on a podcast, Rev Left, who's hosted by, or created by, Brett. Me and him are good friends. We go way back. We did a bunch of episodes on his Patreon about me and him just kind of shooting the shit, talking about life, the good and the bad. Well, we actually have a new podcast that, by the way, the podcast is called Shoeless in South Dakota. I'm an idiot, and I noticed through editing this that I did not even say the title once because I'm that bad at self-promotion. It's called Shoeless in South Dakota. New podcast that only his Patreon people know of so far, and only you guys will know of so far. That is, it's kind of insane podcast. It is me and him, and if you enjoy Brett's content and you enjoy mine, then you'll love this. This is like away from the political stuff. We'll talk about like addiction, mental health, and stuff like that. We also talk about completely random things. We have a back catalog of episodes ready, so there's already 8 podcasts ready. And we have one right now that's a brand new one where we talk about how stupid my fashion sense is, some of the dumbest benders I've been on. We talk about the concept of consciousness and death, what we think happens when we die, block theory, a whole bunch of Buddhist stuff that he knows that I can't pronounce. Honestly, it is, as we call it, it is the shallow and deep end of the pool, and I think you guys will really like it. So I will put it in the bio. You think after using YouTube this long I'd know this shit. Into the description. I'll put the link in there, but you can also find it on all the main podcasts now. It just launched. Again, this is kind of exclusive because we've not launched it on a mainstream thing because honestly, we're starting it kind of underground. And thank God, because I'm even more candid on there than I am here. So anyway, just to get that out of the way. Now on with the show, or video, whatever you want to call it. Today I want to talk about the idea of the chronic relapser, or rather not that, the process of being a chronic relapser, or just someone who relapses over and over again, and kind of how that happens. Because I know intimately how that happens. Now, a lot of people, addicts and alcoholics, will refer to themselves as, I'm a chronic relapser. Basically meaning they'll have some stints of sobriety, then they'll go back. For some people, this could be, a month, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 1 month. Some people it could be 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, 4 months, 6 months. It could fall, like my pattern has followed something similar with, like I used to joke, in AA you get like, chips, and then you can get a year chip, but they also have the 1 month chip. I used to joke that if I was allowed to combine all my 1 month chips together, then I could get a couple years chips. Anyways, but I've struggled with this plenty of times, and so one of the things, and I've felt this, and I've lived through this, that is so insidious about addiction and alcoholism, which makes it just the perfect mechanism to completely screw with someone's mind and to make them fail over and over again. Substance abuse is something I would truly not wish on my worst enemy. A lot of people say that stuff, but secretly, I would be like, actually, what, fuck that guy. I wish something bad would happen to him. Substance abuse is something I wouldn't wish on anybody because the way it not only hijacks your mind, but the way it can just get you to stay in this awful, miserable cycle. And one, as far as chronically relapsing goes, is what makes it so brutal is that a lot of people, they'll hit the 90-day mark over and over again, or the 60-day mark, or, something where they hit a certain amount of days and they do it over and over again. And the one thing that is so frankly terrible about it is that, so think about when you go through the process. You relapse, and let's say it's just a short relapse, or maybe it's a little bit of a longer one, but let's say it's just like a bunch of short ones. You drink for a couple of days or 2 weeks, you try to get back on the wagon. Even with that, you go through the acute withdrawal syndrome. So we're talking, the detox withdrawal stuff, depending on the drug, what that is. With meth, usually you're just a dead person. Your body's been completely zapped of energy for quite some time. With opiates, if you've seen Trainspotting or, the Basketball Diaries or, just The Wire or any movie, you get the flu-like symptoms where they say you can't actually die from opiate withdrawals, but it will absolutely feel like you can. With alcohol, you get the shakes and you can get the DTs, and that actually could have life-threatening issues with seizures and stuff. Same thing with benzos, all that type of stuff. So you have those. So you go through that part, which is a lot of times when it gets bad enough, you have to go to the hospital. You have to go to some medical professional place to detox, just because of the unsafe features of it. Or it's just too hard that you feel so sick you can't keep yourself from using or drinking. Then you have post-acute withdrawal syndromes, which is, I would say after kind of a week or 2 week period with alcohol, at least for me in my experience, there's this kind of like depression you're going through, and also an anxiety where my blood pressure could have actually lowered, but I just still feel this, this anxiety. The way I've always, a good way to put it is that it feels like you have your windshield wipers on high during a light sprinkle. You just have this anxiety about you, and that could last a couple of days, and then the depression can kind of hit, and it's really hard, arduous to get through that first month. So the thing is that if you get through that first month and then you get to 60 days and maybe a couple months, and then, when you relapse, you go back through that whole process again. And then if you relapse again, essentially you're doing the hardest part over and over again. Like, that's what makes it, again, so not just tricky in a sense of how, in AA they say it's a cunning, baffling, powerful, I think that is a good way to describe it. But it's not just in the sense of like how it can keep pulling you back in, but just the absolute meat grinder of misery it is. Because when you're that relapsing like that, like, I can't stress enough, you're just doing the hardest part over and over again. And that's why it can feel so hopeless, because at least people, for myself, when I had longer bouts of time, you see more success and better things in your life. You start to stabilize mentally and emotionally. You'll feel normal. You'll have, difficult times and everything like that, but it'll kind of get back together. But as I've been through as well, when you relapse, it takes you back to square one completely, and you go through those things. Like, that was one thing with me where I swear, like, as it progressed, as, alcoholism and addiction is a progressive illness, disease, whatever they say it is, it progresses in a way to where I swear to you that I would feel the same withdrawals after drinking for 2 years straight. I would feel the same type of withdrawals after drinking for 5 days. I mean, years and years later, it would feel the same. And so it's just going through that part over and over again. And, the person who chronically relapses, it could feel so hopeless, not just because you are failing over and over again, but you're just going through those moments that absolutely just rip the soul. The despair, the absolute demoralization. You're going through that stuff, and you're not seeing the joys and the benefits of life. If you haven't been sober long enough to really, see the fruits of your labor and to see what life can offer, if you don't even get through that part, if you just get through the grind and fail and go back again, life could absolutely seem totally, pointless, or just it could seem so hopeless because you haven't even seen the good parts. Life has just been a band-aid rip of a struggle, just going through the same thing over and over again. And my heart goes out to those people that go through that, because I go through that, and it brings up the scariest thing. I've always called the scariest feeling you can have is that hopelessness, because again, when I've had at least some long-term sobriety before, so I know that, things can change in your mind, and it's possible. But I know people that haven't ever had that, and they've just been going through the struggle over and over again. There's some parts of you that almost goes like, maybe you should have just drank all the way through it, because, God, it's almost so more miserable to do that. I absolutely don't believe that. I mean, that's awful, because you'll most likely just die quicker that way. But that's one of the biggest things, is just being able to break through that hump and break through the cycle. Not just, and this is what I mean, when I'm hitting on the most in this video, is not just the cycle of addiction or drinking, that cycle when you're in active use, but the cycle of getting better for some amount of time and then going back, and getting better and going back. And, I hope any of you that are going through that can find a way out. Who knows how breakthroughs happen. I'm not going to be I'm the arbiter of wisdom and say this is how you can do it. And even if I did, I'd be full of shit, because for every person it's different. But, I hope any of you out there can find that breakthrough. And I hope anybody watching this that's doing well can stay on course. And anybody who's watching this out of interest, I'm glad you're taking interest and taking the time to watch this. So anyway, remember, it is called Shoeless in South Dakota. It is, if you listen to the inaugural episode, you'll learn kind of why it's called that. Actually, it won't even make sense when you do it. But again, it's from Brett from Rev Left, who's incredibly articulate, smart, and is very good at giving shit, taking shit, and giving it back. And we have we go so far back. We have a really, really funny dynamic. I'm a failed stand-up comedian, so I'll be subpar, and I think honestly you guys will enjoy it. Other than that, be well.